Welcome everyone to How to Research Your Home. My name is Catherine Coombs. I am the Richardson-Sloane Special Collections Supervisor here at the Davenport Public Library. Today we'll be sharing with you resources in special collections that will assist you in researching your home or any property that you're interested in. So this program is offered in partnership with the Historic Preservation Commission of the City of Davenport and in celebration of Historic Preservation Month. So at the national level, it is the National Preservation Month, and then it was designated a few years ago as a local recognition as well. So on this front slide, we have a picture of 323rd Street. So honestly, in our collection, photographs of houses are fairly rare. So if you guys live in a historic house, take pictures of your home, please, and the interiors, because people 100 years from now will want to know what you've done with them, and that's one of our biggest questions that we get. So I always try and encourage people to do that. So the topics that we'll cover today are what is historic preservation, researching a historic property, starting your own research, general hints, types of materials to use, historic preservation collections in our department, and then home research examples. So, and then we'll cover a couple of local organizations that support historic preservation that you might be able to join if you're interested. So, what is historic preservation? Historic preservation encompasses many different areas of history, which culminate in the creation of documentation and gathering together records of historic buildings, sites, districts, structures, and objects. As part of our local city and town governments, we have historic preservation commissions and councils which seek to create and integrate historic preservation plans, perform surveys, and preserve our oldest structures and historic sites in areas around our cities. These groups work with state and federal agencies to advocate, support, and promote historic places in history. Historic preservation may also be called heritage preservation or conservation. It really endeavors to seek and seeks to preserve, conserve, and protect buildings, objects, landscapes, and other artifacts of historical significance. So it can also be structures like statues and things like that. It is a philosophical concept that really became popular in the 20th century, which maintains that cities, as products of centuries of development, are obligated to protect their legacies. The term refers specifically to the preservation of the built environment rather than preservation of forests and wildlife. So why is it important? Really, the built environment is viewed as a physical artifact of history. So they're not just buildings, but they're evidence of human activity. Interpretation of historical events, people, and activities through buildings and structures and sites are very important, and we use that in everyday history research. Preservation of unique and rare architectural and design styles throughout different periods of history is also another key point of historic preservation. Similar to letters, photographs, and other firsthand accounts of history, building sites, districts, and structures are considered primary sources of interpreting and evaluating how people lived, how they interacted with their environment, and the architectural styles used during those periods. And so it's really important to keep that in mind, even in modern, the time period that we're living right now, is that there are groups of houses that we might not consider historical, but in, say, 50 to 100 years or even beyond, they may be. So like we live in the Alcoa home district, and those homes were built for a specific purpose. So they might be an interesting artifact of the life in Bettendorf and with the Alcoa business there. And so these pictures are just, this is a government document that we have in our collection from the National Register Bulletin. Then this is an image of the original plat of Davenport, so just right along the river, and so just that little cross section there, and then a fun postcard there as well. And then we're moving on to researching historic property. As people interested in researching your home or other properties, the structure may be located in a historic district or listed on a historical register list at the federal, state, or local level. If they are, you can use the National Registry of Historic Homes and Places to search for the home. And also the City of Davenport has a special designation for local historic landmarks. Specifically on their page entitled Historic Neighborhoods and Places, it describes the Davenport's preservation ordinance that was created to enable the community to identify, protect, and enjoy Davenport's distinctive historical and architectural resources, which represent a visual legacy of the city's cultural, social, economic, political, and architectural heritage. It encourages the conservation through sympathetic rehabilitation or reuse of historically and architecturally significant properties. And it also led to the creation of the establishment of the Historic Preservation Commission, and they are established to protect and enhance locally designated historic resources. So this is a really neat map that you can actually find just on the City of Davenport's website. So this, if you type in historic landmarks or whatever in the search, you can come up with this, and you can see that there's a legend with historic brick streets, individually listed properties, and other properties listed here. And then it also shows the local landmark status and then the National Register of Places, so that it also includes historic districts in the City of Davenport. And I just tried to get a good snapshot of the legend and the image, but you can zoom in lots more. So if you're interested in using this resource, you can just go to their website and search for that. But when you want to start searching a historic property, you want to keep a couple things in mind. So historical significance, why is it on the list? Is it because who lived there or who built it? Historical context, is it in a historical neighborhood or built on land where a historical event took place? Association with a period of significance linked with the property. Integrity in providing evidence. So is there evidence for this historic property that makes it significant? While many homes are not on these lists, that does not mean that there isn't information about them in our collection, but it will impact what types of resources we'll find pertinent while you're searching. So don't fret. If you don't live in a historic home, you can still find out at least who lived there and other fun stuff. And if it's a Gordon Van Tine building, we have lots of catalogs, so we can find different stuff for kit houses too. So starting your research in special collections. So when beginning your own research, it is always a good idea to become familiar with institutions and collections that may have information you are wanting to use. Visiting the websites of libraries, archives, and museums you're intending to visit is beneficial in order to get the basic information about the facilities, such as their hours, services, guidelines, and most importantly, their collections. In some cases, institutions might not have all their collections described and searchable on their websites, but if you contact them or visit them, they may be able to suggest ways of accessing the collections and even assist you in finding them. There are many reasons why someone would be interested in researching a home or property. People are curious to know who lived in their home before them, what did the home look like when it was first built, because they're wanting to renovate it to its former glory, and other reasons. So just similar to researching a family or other topics, you'll want to begin with what you know. So write down the address, any general information that you know, such as a rough estimate of when the structure was built, so that can even be a decade or a time period such as Victorian or Queen Anne or whatever the style may be. And then who lived there. And so if you know that like just the previous owner before you, or if it's a home that you're not living in, if you know of a one person that lived there at some time, you can write that down too. But if you know very little, just bring in what information you have, and we'll help you find out more information to verify the information that we find in your research. So some general hints before we get started with our research. So we suggest that you work backwards through time to pick up addresses, residence changes, and other pertinent information. We suggest that you verify names and dates with multiple primary sources. So don't just trust the city directories, but go to the census records, tax records to verify that those people lived at that location during that time. And then a deed or a title search of the property where the structure is erected can be very helpful place to begin. And then also just consult us or another local organization, institutional or cultural collections to see what resources are available to you in your area. And so, as with any research, examining and reading as many documents about your topic is the best way to give you a holistic understanding of your historic place or property. Here is a general list of material types that we recommend that you start with. So you guys can just read over those. We have a really nice long guide to anyone who's searching our collection with all these listed and more. So you can check mark each item off your list as you're going through different resources in our collection. We do suggest starting with existing research if possible. So check the National Historic Register, the list, local library, museum, or historical county or city architectural surveys. So any of those level of his architectural surveys, you want to check if someone's done one of those for your region that you're looking for. Historic district documents. So as for pertaining to the City of Davenport, we have a number of documents relating to like the Gold Coast and other historic districts like Cork Hill and things like that. So you can start there and see if your home is mentioned. Then you can see if also if there's an abstract of title where you can make a list of owners' names and possible address changes. This will also inform you if the building has undergone any additions or renovations as well. And you might already own your own abstract, or you can access it through your realtor too. Another way to make sure that you gather all the information you want is to make a list of questions you want to learn about your historic building, structure, or site. This will allow you to pinpoint resources you'll want to review while at the library, archive, or museum. Some questions are, when was my house built or building built? Who built my home? Who lived there? Are there any photographs of my house or this building? Were there any additions to this building? Is there any building is the building in a historic district or on the historical registry? Or what was the building used for? This list of materials that we have will help you gather, and those questions as well will help you gather information about people and persons that are associated with the property or the site and the site itself, and even historical context and significance that may be related to it. Another resource to emphasize is the staff at the institution. So here at the Davenport Public Library, definitely talk to us. We might be able to suggest another road, another path if you're stuck with a roadblock. And we also may be able to connect you with materials that you hadn't thought of. In the next few slides, we'll just be going over and delving deeper into some materials that we find particularly helpful when researching homes and individuals who live there. So, abstracted title, or the title abstract, briefly summarizes various activities affecting ownership of a parcel of land. An abstract of title, it really is about when a person, it describes when a person or business agrees to purchase real estate that person or business arranges for an examination of the history of the property's title. And so this involves a title search, and then it's just making sure that this property is able to be sold. There's no like legal recourse that you can't buy it. So this definition is from the legal dictionary. But in our collection, we have a number of collections that have abstracts. So one of them is from 1992-06. So this is the Harold Porsche collection, and it has several boxes of title abstracts. And so it's a really cool collection. I have one box here, and so I've brought out 3 title abstracts for you guys to look at. And one actually shows that Antoine Leclerc bought the parcel of land. So that was kind of fun. So if your property dates back early enough and by the river enough, it might have been owned by Davenport or Leclerc at some point, because they owned and traded lots of land. And so and then we have several other collections. So some of these have just one abstract in the collection or multiples for different areas. And so these images are just from one of the collections that we have of the title abstract. And so it's really interesting. They're really a really interesting piece of record, because they can you can find plat maps in them, letters, depending on if it's a will. You can have letters written and say, I want this to go to this person, or describing the land or changes to it. And sometimes, if you're really lucky, there's photographs in them. And then some states don't actually legally require you to have abstracts, but Iowa does. And so that's a really good thing for us, so that we can trace this history of these properties. If everyone at home, if you could mute yourselves, I would appreciate it.
If you want me all, it should.
I don't know if it will mute me too.
It won't.
It won't. So, thank you. I apologize, because I haven't used GoToMeeting since for several months. So it's kind of a newer experience for me again. But another large section of materials in our collection are architectural drawings. So these are a sketch, diagram, plan, or schematic used to design, construct, document, and document buildings and other structures. These drawings may be used to indicate the overall appearance, inside or outside of the structure, or they may also be used to indicate precise measurements and other details of construction. Drawings, especially for those for construction purposes, may be issued as a set with different sheets indicating different types of construction, including electrical, mechanical, and plumbing. Schematic drawings were often created on linen ink and then reproduced using the blueprint process. These drawings are now often created using CAD or computer-aided design tools. Architectural drawings are commonly used to describe both originals and the reproductions. And although some also use the term to distinguish the original drawings from reproductions. So for most residential properties, there are scant architectural drawings unless it was designed by a well-known architect. Davenport and the Quad Cities do boast a number of notable architects, so we are lucky in that regard. So we do have a few drawings of homes in the area, but predominantly architectural drawings are for businesses, churches, schools, hospitals, and other structures. We do have several collections of architectural drawings in our collection. Most notably, we have a large collection of Temple and Burroughs, two architects from Davenport area, and then the Priester construction, and then some of these other ones. So the Voss residences, that actually has 4 sets of blueprint plans for 4 different residences: 915 West Locust, 911 West Locust, 907, and then West Locust, and then 1720 Marquette. And so these buildings were designed by Eagling and Parks. And then with our Temple and Burroughs collection, in this collection we have architectural blueprints and drawings for projects done by these architects and their firm. It also includes approximately 20 glass plate negatives. Projects include the Jefferson and J.B. Young Schools, Temple House, Bettendorf Tabernacle, and First Presbyterian Church. And so just going through all those would be a really big task, but it might be really fun if you really love architectural blueprints. But we're actually going to be coming up with a brochure with all this information, so it'll be easy and handy, so you can take that home and see which ones you want to dig into later. Then we have our Davenport City building permits. So another useful record for house research is our building permits. We have those records dating from 1919 to 1938. These are accessible on microfilm and special collections, and then also on the city's website. So sometimes it's down, so don't fret, always just go back and check. So if you go to the main website and search permits, and then permits, and then you can, it's like the 3rd one down in the list, and you can access this permit and inspection search, and you can search the historic permit listings. And so these are organized by street address, so it's really nice. So all you need to know is the street number and the street name. And then they will talk about, these will help you trace the additions, renovations, and demolitions of structures on parcels of land. And so this one, I did a blog last week on 722 Brown Street. I did not know if it was still extant. I found out that sadly it is not. It was demolished in 1980s. But we have a really lovely drawing of the boys who lived in the home. They did a drawing of their house and their neighbor's house, and it's really delightful and really fun. But that helped me figure that out. One of our most beloved resources are our city directories. And so this resource is amazing. And so we have, for Davenport and the Iowa side of the Quad Cities, we have city directories dating from 1855 to present, microfilm and print. And so mostly they're in print, but we have a few years that are on microfilm. So there is a little bit of a gap. But they have information organized alphabetically by heads of household and business names. And so what's really special about this resource that is 1890 to present, they have a reverse lookup by address. So if you don't know who lived in a home, you can look at these city directories and then find who lived there. and then you can work that way back and trace that information. But we do have city directories for Rock Island. So we have those also from 1855 to present in microfilm and print. So the later years are in print, and then the earlier years are in microfilm. And so those ones include Moline after 1920. And so, and the holdings are a little bit more sporadic than our Davenport ones. But they are very most used and valuable resource in our collection. It is also fun because if you have a homeowner who is also a business owner, you may also be able to find an advertisement on one of the pages. So that's also really interesting. Then we have the federal and state censuses. Census records provide valuable information about individuals and families. They also provide context about the communities that they lived in, and also allow us to trace where they lived within the county, state, and city. So we have federal census records from 1840 to 1950. 1950 is all online and it's being indexed as we're speaking, and you can access them now on Ancestry. So you can access those. And then we have state census records from 1838 to 1925. And most of those are on microfilm. And then we also have subscription databases that allow you to search that as well. Then we have historical and architectural surveys. So we have them dating from 1982, 2000, and 2002. These are really useful because they typically have images of the structures and then also brief history already done for you. So this is a great place to start. They are organized by address. They are of residences and buildings that have architectural or historical significance. So another one of our favorites is Sanborn maps. So the Sanborn fire insurance maps. We have ones dating from 1886, 1892, 1910, and 1956. So this one that's featured on the screen and then also on the table, that's from 1956. It's a reduced reproduction of, I believe, 1910, and then they have updated it until 1970. So it's a really great resource for us. And so it features building footprints, building sites, construction materials, and more. And you can also have access a really great collection online through the Library of Congress that you can search. And so they have every state that you can think of, and then ours too. So it's really nice that you can access that from home. The 1892 Sanborn maps are actually on microfilm. So we also have many maps and atlases. This collection contains maps, plats, and atlases that provide information about Davenport and Scott County. So we do have some early copies of Scott County plat maps and Davenport plat maps. And so, but we have loads more. We have a really neat one that's in Russian, which is really strange, but it's really fun. And then if you want to explore a map collection, just come talk to the staff and we can help you with that, because we have internal inventories. Someday we're cataloging, and then we're going to catalog the published maps, and those will be in our online book catalog. And then the other ones will be in our archive and manuscripts catalog. So you guys will be able to see them and search for them. But we unfortunately do only have a few maps of the city of Davenport that predate 1900. But one we have done a really wonderful job conserving, and it's actually, we have a nice reproduction on our wall in special collections. So if you come down, you can see that map front and center. Then one of our biggest collections that would be useful for home researchers are our land records. So we have a lot of different types of records within this collection that we call land records. So we have records of deeds, grantor, grantee indexes, which allow you to see the transfer of land between the grantor, who's the seller, and the grantee, who's purchasing it. And then it will describe the plot in sectional terms. So it will tell you specifically what plot of land that they're buying, and will possibly give you a description. The description books will do the same thing, so they'll have it listed by, I believe that's by date, but the grantor grantee is by name, so it's really nice if you're looking for a specific name. But these are, some of them are organized chronologically by the date of the instruments, so you'll want to look through that. But we had done a recent presentation last year just on land records, so I think we'll probably be doing that one again. So if you guys are interested, keep a lookout for that. And then I just wanted to share with you this image. This comes from us from the Family Search Wiki, and so this is a really nice guide to understanding the rectangular survey grid of townships. And so you can see, okay, if they're talking about the northwest quarter of section 14, you'll know exactly what they're meaning. So, and with these, you'll want to work backwards with the description. So start with the most specific and then work your way back, because that will give you a little bit better clue of what's going on. And so then just kind of covering some Scott County, Iowa, and Davenport histories that might pertain home history due to the more famous folks that live there. It spotlights residences, commercial properties, industries, businesses, and residents. But I just wanted to show our nice little Davenport districts. So they have little information about different historic districts in Davenport. And so we do have a number of books and books on historic properties in our collection. We have books written by Marian McGinnis, one of our older women, by Marla Stevenson, and also loads more. And so we really would like to share that with you. And then we also have really fun little pamphlets and booklets that are in our ephemera collection as well. Then, so this one is just to kind of help prove that those folks live at this residence. So tax records will help you with that. And it will also show like if they've gained any more property, things like of that nature. And these records date from 1849 to 1970. They're organized chronologically and they're on microfilm in our collection. We do have some on in paper too. And they're also available through the Scott County, Iowa website under parcels. Then, of course, newspapers are another great resource to research a home. And so you can search the people or the place. So in one of our research projects, we are researching a house in McClellan Heights, and we found that just a little note in the newspaper saying that the house is going to be erected. So a patron came in and they lived out in Long Grove and they wanted to find out information about their home. So we were searching in the newspaper. We found out that their home was supposed to be constructed by such and such a date, but the gentleman who was constructing it, he dropped a hammer on his toe and he was out of work for a couple of days. And so it was kind of funny because it's like, why would you write about this very minor incident? But we have newspapers dating from 1838 to present. They are predominantly on microfilm. We do have special edition newspapers that are in print. But we have indexes and newspaper clipping files that are organized by names and addresses. And we have this lovely database called Local Database Search. And so you can type in names And keywords, I would avoid using date range, but you can use press contains when you search that, and that will give you the best search. But it's surprising on what you will find in older newspapers. Then another handy resource for you is our Iowa probate records and will books. These date from 1836 to 1940. They're organized by case number, so you'll want to search for the person's name and then find the case number and find that information. So sometimes they're pretty scant, some of them are pretty lengthy. It just depends on how much that person owned and who they were giving it to. And so these are available in books and microfilm. Then we do have photographs of historic homes and businesses and places. But sometimes we don't always get to know exactly what house is featured in the photograph, because if we don't have identification of the people, we can't really identify the house. So we probably have more pictures of homes than we know of, but since they're unidentified, we can't really share them with folks. But for what we do have, we have them organized by addresses, building names, and surname. They're available through an in-house database, so similar to our map collection, you'll want to come talk to us. And then we'll help you find the images that you're seeking. But we have uploaded quite a number of photographs onto our Upper Mississippi Valley Digital Image Archive. And so that will give you a good sense of what we have digitized, and there are historic homes on there. So a couple collections that might be pertinent to folks in this room. So we do have a collection that came to us from the city. These materials were created by several city departments. They have met retention, so then they came over to us because of historical significance. And so it contains a number of project files, planning commissions, trends and plans, architectural drawings of Annie Wittenmeyer complex, World War I government housing projects, Gordon Van Time construction project, photographs, Marlis Stevenson's collections from 1979 to 1984, Linda Hand Club materials, and also progress photographs from CPED, the Community Planning and Economic Development Department, which is now CED, and then planning. They switched again. And then Historic Preservation Commission materials as well. So this entire collection dates from 1890 to 2011. It's made up of 100 boxes. And so those are some of the highlighted collections in there. So that is all on our archive and manuscript collection. So if you just go to archives.davenportlibrary.com, you'll be able to search those. And then we have a specific collection just dedicated to Historic Preservation Commission. So this is dated 2000-16 Historic Preservation. It's from 1979 to 1990. It's in one record center box, so it contains a lot of correspondence, budget preparation and documentation and rulings and regulations of all the business that goes on there. So this is a really great collection if you're interested in getting involved and learning what they've done in the past. Also, if you are interested in participating or just being a watcher, you can watch them online by going to Davenport, Iowa's, the City of Davenport's website. Then I just wanted to show a couple examples of home research. And so this is 722 Brown Street. So I was just curious. I had seen this particular item, the map that I had talked about a little bit earlier, in our collection a number of times since I started working at the library. And so I was always intrigued because it's hand-drawn by kids. They might have been like young adults, teenagers, but it's really impressively done. And so I researched and Initially, when the home was purchased by the Petersons, both Adolf and Gerhardt lived there, but then they quickly got married, and Adolf moved to a different house and with his wife, and then Gerhardt lived there with his wife, Ella Stoley. They had 3 children. Adolf had 1, and so at that time, they were publishers of the Iowa Reform, and they owned the Adolf and Brothers, Adolf Peterson and Brothers publishing company. And so they were featured in one of the Scott County atlases, actually the combined atlas right down at the end of the table. And so their pictures are featured on both pages. It was kind of funny because I don't know why they were done twice. But they were very well-known citizens. And so I just traced the ownership of the home around Gerhardt's death. His wife moved and the house became a rental. And so from that point until till it was condemned, it was a rental. And so I'm guessing just based on rentals and how they get degraded over time, it just was too poor to fix. And so sadly, this house is not extant. I wish it was, because it'd be really fun to show the owner this piece of history that they have and that they can view. But it was very interesting. I used the city directories, land records, and things like that. If you're interested in finding out more, there's a blog on our primary selections from special collections blog website. And then these ones I just kind of stole snapshots of the house research that my staff did for patrons. So this is 20 Forest Road. I believe this is the Nathaniel French house. We have a little booklet on his home on the table that you guys can take a look at. And so my staff did a wonderful job tracing the French family and all the other families and their genealogical research. So if you're interested, we can easily pull that up for you. But we do have pictures of this home because it's right on River Drive, or right off of River Drive. And it was featured in the newspaper quite a number of times. Then we have 128 Hillcrest. So this home is in the McClellan Heights district. And so you can see that there's a number of articles about the home and when it was built, and then also information about some vandalism. And it was also robbed during its course of its life too. And so you can see this is a Sanborn map. You can see that the house is, I believe it should be like right around here. And then this is the little booklet of the McClellan Heights Historic District that the city put together. Then we have 215 Fernwood Avenue. So my staff member did a bunch of research for the patron who was interested in this house. And so they set up a table full of resources for them to go through. And I think they did it over a couple different days. But this one is also interesting because the 2 of the daughters who lived in the home, they are featured sitting there, and so you can kind of see what their life was like in their home and how they decorated. And then also another little fun article about the home. And then this is 416 to 420 West 6th Street. So this is a copy of the Grantor Grantee Index, a picture of some construction out in front of the homes. And then there's the 1910 Sanborn map and then the 1956 Sanborn map. So you can see 2 different versions of the same location. So you can kind of get a sense of what types of resources we tend to gravitate towards. Then these are some buildings in the East Village. So if you guys have visited the village of East Davenport, you might recognize this building. There's a little storefront in it right now, I believe. And so this one is really neat because there's 2 national heritage listings for the home. And so 2 2218 East 11th Street was actually a dairy. And so you can see the little advertisement in the city directories. And then this one is just a really interesting picture because it's like a silhouette. It was of a group touring the home. And so that was really, really fun image. And then we have our last one, the 3119 Arlington Avenue. So we have our plat maps, and then we have more of the genealogy side of who lived there and their obituaries, and so that we can trace that information as well. But if you guys are interested, there's multiple ways that you can get involved with historic preservation. So we have Scott County, Iowa Historic Preservation Society, Rock Island, and Moline. Both of them have, so Rock Island is predominantly for, so there's two for Rock Island County, and then Scott County's all together. So they work with the Historic Preservation Commission. I don't think so much right now, but I think they did in the past. And then I know Rock Island Preservation Society is very active, and Moline is too. And so if you're ever interested, I know that they're looking for members. And it's always really fun because if you belong to these organizations, you can go to people's homes or other businesses and buildings. So I encourage you to do that. But thank you guys so much for attending this program. There's all our contact information and pertinent websites that you can access. We also are on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and we also have our blog. But tonight, we have not covered all the resources that we have in our collection that pertain to historic home research. So I do invite you to stop in and visit us and the materials, and we'd love to give you a tour of special collections. But does anyone have any questions?
What are the hours that special collections is open?
Oh, perfect question. So on Mondays, we are open from 9 to 8, and then Tuesday through Saturday, we're open from 9 to 5, but on Saturdays, we're closed over the lunch period. So from 12 to 1, we're closed.
I have a question.
Yeah, please ask.
Do you know if there's a contact at on the Rock Island side as far as the library?
Oh, I could get you one if you give me your email.
Sure, I can send that.
Yeah, you can send it over to that.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I have a few questions, but I'll just put out a couple and I'll talk to you later about it.
Okay.
But if we have pictures of our home, can we somehow add it to your collection?
Yes, you can certainly donate materials, and we take digital copies too. So if you have, if you're taking pictures of your house and you don't want to print them out and you just have the JPEG or whatever format you've taken them in, we probably want JPEG or something that's like a TIFF. TIFFs are really big, and I don't know how you get them on cameras. You get them on scanners. But if you do JPEGs, that should be fine, or PNGs.
And then I have a question. When we purchased our home, the abstract was lost, and so it was recreated, which sadly a lot of it was lost. And it's housed at a attorney's office, so we haven't really seen that. I was just curious. So with all of these, there's just sort of one copy that stays with the homeowner? These were not copied and placed other places, or it stayed with the attorneys, or?
That's a really good question, because I don't know, because a lot of these look like they're the originals that they've come, and maybe it was a lawyer who had them and he was ending his business and he wanted to donate them to an institution. That's a question that I need to do more research into, because I'm not 100% sure on like why there's some that aren't like at lawyers' offices and real estate offices, and some are in homes. People find them in their house. People find them, like people take them with them, or whatever the case may be. So yeah, it's really interesting. Any other questions, you guys? Let me look at the chat really quick.
Is this presentation online somewhere?
It's going to be recorded. Yep. it's recorded and then I'll put it on to YouTube.
Okay.
So it'll take a couple of days.
But there's no like, I can just look at your slides.
No, but I'd be happy to send you guys PowerPoint slides if you want. Okay, any experience in researching properties for land grant patents? I'm sure my staff have, I have not, but my staff members have done such great research. So I would point you to them. I must talk to you about, okay, yes, please talk to us. You can, I'll put my email in here for my department and I'll have you contact us that way. But any other questions, you guys?
I noticed it's hard to find some things about the women who lived in the houses, and also, well, ours during a period of time was willed to a woman, so that made it a little easier. But is that something that again, it might be something for another forum, but is that something that in historic preservation they're looking into more? Because it seems like the male names come through on all these deeds and things, but the women who lived in the home, as with many other things, are kind of erased.
That's a good question. Yeah, that's something that we haven't really delved into too much. We try, that's one way, like, to find out more about the women is doing genealogy research.
Right.
And so then you're finding that, like, family history with that person, and so you can find the better half. In the genealogy records.
Okay.
And sometimes, if the woman, so with the Peterson family, both of the ladies moved out of their houses after their husbands died. And the husbands died around the same time. So it's really funny, these two brothers. And something caused a schism because Gerhard worked with his brother Adolf at the publishing the Iowa Reform, but like in 1919, yeah, around 1920, they stopped like working together, and Gerhard worked for the Halligan Candy Company as a printer, but then Adolf's son took his role and started helping his dad, so maybe they had the conversation like, who's going to take over this business? Is it my son? Is it you? What's going on? And so that was kind of interesting to see that as well. So, but yeah, both of the ladies moved and they were listed in the city directories. So that's one nice thing is looking at city directories. So sometimes they do list the women of the household after a certain time period.
The census too.
Census too. But yeah, it's hard to search for ladies sometimes. But you can always search by their husband's name, so Mrs. Harold Green or something like that.
Right.
Any other questions, you guys? Oh, this little thing.
I've got a comment.
Oh, yes. Steve.
First of all, there's several of us here from the Davenport Historic Preservation Commission, and I just wanted to thank you and the library for collaborating with us and helping to promote Historic Preservation Month. And I also wanted to see if you wanted to announce some other things that are coming up that we're collaborating on.
I was wanting to do that. So next week, first off, on Tuesday, May 24th, we'll be having the QC Passport folks come and visit, and they are trying to be great stewards of local places and people by doing markers and just telling our stories of the Quad Cities. So Natalie Linville Master or one of her staff members will come over and talk about QC Passport, and then you'll have to go on the Channel Cat and listen to their talks, and they have a nice little app that you can access that information. But as far as our partnerships with the Historic Preservation Commission, we have a number of awesome events coming up. So I think the first one will be our Party in the Parks. So that is a partnership with all city departments. The library will be there, and then all like police, fire, council folks will be there as well. So we'll have a table at 2 events. I believe it is, Matt, do you remember? The first one's June 9th, I know,
Yep, at Harrington Park.
Harrington, and then
The other one was,
Duck Creek,
yep, in July.
Duck Creek in July. So please come visit us at those tables. I know Mary and McGinnis will have lots of great stuff too, and then the library will be creating like little handouts about the parks as well with some neighborhood history. And then there's going to be 3 different times that you can do the Heart of Downtown Davenport tour. And so that is going to be led by Ellen Shafley. She is going to be doing downtown tours of Davenport from the research that she's done. There's one in June, July, and August. There's a morning tour, a Saturday tour, and a Monday morning tour. So try and find a time that's available for you. But those are all on our website. And then in September, we're going to be having Marion McGinnis come and talk about tax credits for historic properties. So if you own a historic property and you want to renovate it, you can find out how you can get some help with supporting that. So that'll be really fun. And I'm sure there's more to come. I'll do a brief plug for a really fun, exciting program in October. So October 8th, we're going to be having our annual event called the QC Archives Fair. And so it's actually going to be at the LeClaire House this year. So I'm really thrilled. Perfect timing. I had questions.
30 minutes.
I thought I was going to go long, you guys. But that will be really fun. We just had it over at the Butterworth Center last year, but this year we're going to have it over on the Iowa side in LeClaire's house. So it will be really fun. So if you haven't checked out the home, please come and visit and learn more about the historical and cultural institutions of the Quad Cities.